Well, who wants to talk tiny plants for tiny tanks? Well, welcome to the small Scape. This is first in the series that has been very much requested, and it's finally the time. So since this is the small Scape and we are all about tiny nano tanks here, I figured I would start off with the smallest tank sizes and the plants that are perfect for this size of tank. So for this video, it is all tanks that are less than, not including, but less than the 5-gallon nano tank size. Just so you know that all of these plants, I'm not going to go through completely their temperatures and their pHs and all that, but if I have done like a species profile on any of these plants or videos relating to these particular kinds of plants, I will link them down below. I'll throw them up there for your viewing pleasure. But the first two that I'm going to go through are planted plants that you're going to plant into the substrate. The last three are ones that you can attach, so give you a little bit of a variety. And that bonus one is, well, it's kind of neither. But these are just my picks of my favorites for these tiny tanks. So with number one, I would like to pick, and this may be a little controversial. A lot of people may not like this for tiny tanks, but that's okay. I like it. MICROSWORD, Liliopsis brasiliensis, is a lovely little plant. And if you like that grassy little fine texture and you don't run high light, high CO2, which quite possibly in a tiny tank you're not going to, and you're going to have probably a lower level light, nothing really fancy, I highly recommend this plant because dwarf hairgrass, not really an option. And then Vallisneria is, you're probably not going to want to deal with the maintenance. Sometimes I will put Vallisneria in a tiny tank, but knowing that there will be a maintenance involved with that. You're just not going to have that maintenance with MICROSWORD because it grows so slowly. Just know that you're not going to be, I just really don't feel that it will perform like a carpeting plant, like a lot of the higher end aquascapes like to use it as, because you don't have enough light and you just don't have the nutrients to have it really take off in your tank, which is good when you have a tiny tank. You don't want a whole lot of maintenance. The only issue I do see that you should probably keep in mind with this plant is the issue that I see popping up, literally popping up with this plant, is that it likes to pop up out of the substrate. So with this, that's the biggest concern that you're going to have, is trying to keep it down in the substrate, which I like to use when I'm using MICROSWORD. I like to use Cereus stone or dragonstone because it has those kind of hard edges, and you can kind of bury or kind of hold down the roots until it kind of takes hold into the substrate. It'll kind of just keep them like wedge. I kind of wedge the plants in between maybe two rocks until it kind of grows into the substrate. That's my only tip for you. Number two, a great little plant if you like crypts. Who doesn't love crypts? But in these tiny tanks, you can't just put any kind of crypt in there because it will eventually take up a whole lot of room. If that's the look you're going for, knock yourself out. But I highly recommend for these tiny tanks, go with PARVA. It is the tiniest crypt out there, and it's just absolutely adorable. I love it. It has a great little texture, and I also like to use this with the MICROSWORD. I think they look really great together. They have a similar kind of growing pattern, kind of like a texture that complements each other very nicely, and they just look really cute together, I find. And it's just, I think that PARVA is just a perfect little miniature crypt. Number three, if you have a tiny tank and you're not, especially a tiny tank with not a whole lot of light, and you're concerned with not having enough light for your plants, this is one that you're gonna love because it doesn't like a whole lot of light because you'll get algae then. But if you also like a little bit of different color, I highly recommend Bucephalandra. It has a whole bunch of different kinds. I have yet to do a video on this. I can't wait to do a video because I'm amassing quite a collection of different kinds to share. But you can get different colors, you can get different, their leaves are just unlike any other aquatic plant. I just love them. There's the green wavies, the like mini reds, Godzillas. They just have fun names. I think they're just like they're not like actual species names. I think people just make them up. They're like trade names or something, but really fun to collect and have in super tiny tanks. I have a tank over here that's a very tiny 1 gallon tank, and that's what I put in there, BUCE. It's adorable, and it looks really good with my pick that's coming up next, and that would be ANUBIAS NANO PETITE. It is my favorite plant, my favorite aquatic plant in the world, because it is so super tiny. And I have some that are like micro. They are super tiny. I mean, what's cuter than a little super teeny tiny ANUBIAS NANO PETITE? Very cute. They're slow growing, but they have great little tiny leaves, which just is a lot of fun texture. You can do a lot with a Scape with just a little bit of ANUBIAS. You can have it running up a like a little bit of a log. You can have it running up a branch. You can have them clustered together, spread out, and they creep along that little rhizome, just adorable. And you don't have to worry about planting these. The BUCE or the ANUBIAS NANO PETITE, you don't have to worry about planting if you don't want to do that. You can just attach it. You can even wedge it in like a little nook and cranny of wood, driftwood, or of a rock. You can attach it. I've had so many videos, I'll put them down below. So many different hacks. You can use little rubber bands, you can use super glue, just sky's the limit, or don't use anything and just kind of wedge them in between a couple of rocks and you're good to go. They're really great for beginners, even advanced, intermediate. Everybody loves them because it's a great little plant. Number 5 is another ANUBIAS. Now, some people would not put, and I'm going to suggest the ANUBIAS NANO to put, or even gold coin. Gold coin would be great too. I think they stay generally around 7 inches or less, which maybe your tiny tank is less than 7 inches tall, quite possibly could be. But the great thing about ANUBIAS is that it will grow outside of water. So it will grow immersed as long as the roots and the rhizome are under the water. The leaves grow up out of the water, so especially if you have like a water garden or if you have a tank that doesn't have a lid on it, this is really great. And when you first get an ANUBIAS, it's going to be smaller. We just rescaped the Zen Aqua cylinder tank for the new year, and I put in some ANUBIAS NANO in the center, and right now it's very small. Will it get taller? Sure. If it gets too tall and it starts taking up too much room, well, that's fine. I can always trim it on the rhizome, just kind of cut the rhizome and divide it, or just watch it grow out of the tank, which looks really cool. I really like it, even for the smaller tanks. And it's also nice to keep in mind, if you do have the ANUBIAS NANO PETITE and then you add an ANUBIAS NANO or a gold coin with something a little bit of a larger leaf, that gives a lot of nice texture. It's a very similar texture, but then also 2 different sizes, which gives a whole lot more interest in the tank. Now for your bonus, I don't think you have, well, you just absolutely have to consider for a tiny tank, and I did a video a while back on this, it was kind of goofy, but the moss ball, especially since now they are coming back, they were out for a while because they were kind of infected, they had an issue, but now they've remedied that. They're not contaminated with little critters anymore. If you can get your hands on some moss balls, or if you already have some, which I do, I have some that were clear. Whew, thank goodness, because I have quite a few. But these are so much fun, and there's a lot of hacks that you can do with a moss ball. You can make it look like it's covering a rock. You can wedge them in between rocks. There's just, sky's the limit. One of these days I'm going to do like a really cool moss ball hack video, like a really fun one, not like a goofy one, but like a really like upscale moss ball video. That would be pretty fun. So there are my picks, my 5 plus bonus 1 for tank sizes under 5 gallons. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Maybe it gave you some plants to think about. Let me know, what are your favorite go-to plants? If you have a tank under 5 gallons, do you automatically pick a certain plant, or are you afraid to do tanks that are that small, or do you have a whole bunch and you always pick certain plants? Let me know what your favorite is, and thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.